I grew up in an abusive home. My dad was an alcoholic. I learned at a very early age that my sexuality could be used as a tool to manipulate men, so I used it. By the time I was 12, I was smoking pot. I was 13, I started drinking. By the time I was 12, 13, I was already sexually active, but it made me feel really, really dirty. So I started drinking more. The more I drank, the more I smoked, and the more I smoked, the more I drank. By the time I was 18, I had already been married and divorced and had a child. When I was 33, I moved in with a guy that was 14 years younger than I am and had another baby. I got really, really, really drunk one night and came home. The guy I was living with decided that he was going to put my head through a window. And he woke up the baby and called his mom, and they took off with my child, and I never saw her again, which began the drinking very heavily. I started doing all different kinds of drugs. When I moved to Kansas City, and I had these two bottom front teeth that I could literally turn them around in my mouth. They were so loose and so infected. I went to the Kansas City Dental College, and they pulled the teeth and sent me home. In less than 12 hours, my tongue was starting to swell. I went upstairs and told Tammy and Steve, and they run me to the hospital. But this old ER doctor, before they released me, he had to sign off. And he come over and looked at me and said, you send her home, she'll die. So they sent me upstairs and put me in a room. And for the next 4 days, we did high-dose antibiotics, and my tongue kept swelling and coming out of my mouth more and more. At the end of 4 days, it was black and it was laying on my chest. I was septic, is what I was. And a team of 9 doctors come into my room. They wheeled me out down to surgery, and that's the last thing I remember. And people say all the time that they have these near-death experiences where they go to heaven and they see Jesus. I saw absolutely nothing. It says in the Bible to be absent from the Lord is to be in darkness. Well, that's true, because it was very dark and very quiet. The whole time I was in the hospital, the chaplain of the biker organization that we were a part of sat at my bed every morning before he went to work and every night when he got off work. I'd been in a coma for 11 days, but I'd been in the hospital for 14 days. At the end of the 11 days that I had been in a coma, the doctors came in, and that pastor was sitting on the foot of my bed, like always. And they told him, she has no brainwave activity, she can't breathe on her own. For all intents and purposes, she's dead. And we're going to unplug her. And he stood up in between me and them and said, you're not going to touch her, because my God's not done with her yet. And they went to get a judge to get a court order to turn me off. While they were gone, God woke me up with Jay's voice, and he said, get up, I need you. When they came back into the room to turn off my machine, I was sitting up. It blows my mind that a Jesus that I didn't even know about pulled me back from death because he had a plan and a purpose for my life. I went to a church service at that same pastor's church not quite a year later. At the end of the service, he come in front of me and he bent down and he goes, do you want to meet him now? And I just started sobbing more, and I said, I've tried everything else. Nothing else works. Let's try him. And I was saved, and it felt like a weight had been taken off of me. It was, I can't even explain it really, but I know my life has never been the same.